So welcome to District 4, to the point for information and news. I am your host, Ayla. So I'm going in today. We're going to talk about some top stories. We're going to do some obvious ones and some not so obvious ones. But I wanted to come in here and make sure that we got a little bit in for today. It is important, before I get started, that we understand some things. We don't always have control over what happens. We just simply don't. And anytime we try to take control over what we're doing and what we're not doing, what other people are doing and not doing, is when we tend to get ourselves into trouble. Many of us, especially Americans, have the sort of cowboy mentality where we can just say and do anything and there not be any consequences for it. Or we can tell you what to say and do, and if it's not in line with what we say and do, then you can take some action. And I don't think that that's working for us as a whole, as a country. Because if we look at where America's kind of going today, it's kind of going in the wrong direction. Now, for those of you that don't believe in right and wrong, we always have those people. There's no one way to do anything. There's no right way or wrong way to do anything. But you can see the outcomes of what you're doing. Because some people are like, well, how do you know what's right and how do you know what's wrong and how do you know? As if they're completely clueless. And some people probably are, so let's pretend you are for one second. Let's pretend you don't know right from wrong. And you go to the wrong person, and it's a religious person, and they say, there's a right and a wrong, and it's in the Bible, and you just ignore them, and you keep going to the next person. The next person says, well, there's sort of shades of gray. There's no one way to do anything. And then you go to the next, and then you end up where we are, which is lost. There's no question that America's lost right now. We can pretend we're not. We can act like we're on track. We can act like we know where we're going, but we don't. Now, how do you know? Pray tell, right? Like, how do you know? Who knows what's right and wrong? I mean, where are you coming from with this scenario? You don't know what's right from wrong. You can tell by the outcome, right? Right? How many times did you, after you did something, go out and go, oh, that wasn't the right thing to do? But you didn't know it at the time. It is the reason why we have what is called history. It is the one thing we study throughout the entire course of our life. We study history. And why do we do that? Because history teaches you outcomes. Why do we put so much emphasis on experience? Because experience teaches you outcomes. The name of the game of right and wrong is what the heck is the outcome of what you're doing. And you only know that if you haven't experienced it by looking at somebody that either went through it and checking it with somebody else that went through it and checking it with somebody else that went through it. When you look at these stories and the news, please look at them more wisely, because what we're not seeking most of the time is wisdom. We just don't think we need it. We can bounce all around here with no focus, with no nothing. We got situationships. We got, we got women acting like men, men acting like women. Everybody says, oh, that there's no right and wrong to that. But you have to look at the outcome. Now, I say, because you're like, why are you telling me this? Because we're going to go into the subject of Charlie Kirk. And we have to. Not just because it's a top news story and that's what we're supposed to be talking about, but because it is important to understand how to learn from these types of things. Right? You have to learn from what's happening. Why is it that some people that don't emphasize violence at all sometimes lose their lives violently? Take Martin Luther King, for example. I mean, he preached things that were opposed to what people wanted to know at the time. We weren't in a place to receive it at the time. And therefore, you would think that he would live a peaceful life, right? You would have thought maybe he's not going to die violently as he did. When you have somebody that's also preaching at the same time, Malcolm X, and I'm just using them as an example because I'm going to get to Charlie Kirk in a minute, who also died violently. So there's a confusion and how that actually worked out the way that it worked out. How did Charlie Kirk end up getting shot? And he didn't really speak about anything violent. Oh, he opposed guns. He said, some things. But technically, he wasn't violent. And the reality of that situation is that's a lie. Not saying anybody deserves to die. They absolutely do not, especially in such a tragic way, because you don't agree. But we have to be realistic when we say words can be violence. They can. And I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with any of the people that I mentioned. I'm only saying it to say you got to watch what your mouth is saying, because it affects people. It's not enough for us to... We have a tendency in America, this is why people can't stand Americans. We're arrogant, we're self-righteous, we are martyrdom, we martyr ourselves, we go all in because we know and do everything and we are perfect. By our verbiage. Never mind what we're doing. By our verbiage. You know what I mean? Like, we know. But it's a thing to say that we don't take responsibility for what's coming out of our mouths and the thoughts that go into our minds. We have completely stopped doing that. And there's a consequence to stop doing that. And we're starting to see it now. You can't just say anything. And this is not to say that Charlie Kirk was wrong for a lot of the things that he said, or that he was right for a lot of the things that he said. It's the infectiousness of what he was saying, and that you needed to take responsibility for that. And our thoughts. Here comes a person that just doesn't like what somebody's saying. It's not even that they're right or wrong. You don't even pay attention to that part. You pay attention to how you subjectively feel about what they're saying. You do not look as a whole. We do not look out for each other. We look out for number one. This is a country that looks out for our number one. That's it. That's the only people we look out for. Ourselves. Isolated in one manner, and we are not connected in another way. We have families that we're not connected to. We have friends that we're not connected to. We have relationships that we're not connected to, even though we see them every single day. So I'm going in super hard because I did not agree with the guy that shot that man. Did you agree with everything that he said? No. You don't agree with everything your family says, and you think just like them almost. But does that give somebody a right to take somebody's life? Did you suddenly think that out of nowhere, at 20-something, you knew more than somebody in their 30s? Suddenly you had enough of an understanding. The reason why people think young people don't know anything is because you don't. You don't have outcomes. You have a few of them, but not enough. That's why it says respect your elders. That thing we don't do anymore. Remember we stopped doing that? We just didn't care how old you were. We didn't care to listen to people because they're older than us. As a matter of fact, we just respect them more. That this generation now, we don't care. We don't care how old you are. You will not be talking to me a certain way. You're not going to tell me how to live my life. And you start acting like that and you don't realize what you don't have is their experience and outcomes. They can teach you two things, what to do and what not to do. You can use their life as an example of what to do or what not to do, but you should be listening regardless. You're not going to like what they say. Generally, when you don't have the same knowledge, information, experience, wisdom as somebody else, and they tell you the opposite of what you're living, you're automatically going to be mad. We should take responsibility for that. The idea emotionally is to get you to consider what the person's saying, but we don't look at it like that in this generation. What we look at it as a way to reattack you, to tell you about yourself, keeping it 100. But that's BS. We're lying. And when somebody comes to tell you, hey, it's a possibility that you're living a lie, your answer is to take them out. It's the same thing in the civil rights movement back in the day when we said, maybe you're lying when you say these aren't people. Maybe you should be treating people with respect and dignity as a person because that's what they are. Now, they may have a different culture than you, but that doesn't mean that they're not that they're not human nonetheless. But they didn't want to hear that at the time. Nobody wants to hear that you're doing something wrong. It almost makes you feel bad, right? Now you feel bad about yourself. And in this society, we just cannot feel bad about ourselves. We should not ever feel bad about ourselves because, this society will not allow us to. We just don't. We walk around with fake security. The most insecure people come across as the most secure people, and they're as insecure as hell. They don't even know up from down, but they are very set in their ways, and it does not allow for growth. He might not have been right, he meaning Charlie Kirk, he might have hit some nerves, he might have hit several nerves. We had to question when he said, somebody asked the question, why can't, African Americans have single homes and all of this stuff? How do you explain that? And he said, maybe because they think that's okay. Maybe because they don't encourage marriage in their culture. Maybe they don't make you feel bad when you're running around pregnant out of a situationship. And we got mad. Everybody was, what the hell? You're not even black. How the hell do you know? It just strikes a nerve. It makes you think about it, and that's the whole point. That was the whole point of any person that is outspoken, that is not preaching all hate in one area or another. If you listen to his stuff, if you watched his stuff, you saw that he never really attacked in that way. He got attacked, he debated. They were debates, which should be one of the safest things in the world, right? You're just speaking back and forth. Not hitting each other, you're not attacking each other. You don't brandish a gun. You just sit there and go back and forth, and you don't have to agree. That's what a debate is. A debate is generally two opposing sides. I mean, duh. That's what a debate is. And it sparks conversation. Or it should. But not in a society where we don't have direction. We're scared. We're scared because deep down inside we know we don't have direction. We're grasping for anything that seems like it'll give us a foundation. But we took all the foundational stuff out of the country because we wanted everybody to accept any and everything as if it's all acceptable. Everything is right. Everything's okay. How you say it doesn't matter as long as you say it. Keep it 100. Situations, all this stuff that we're allowing ourselves to believe, it's not because we really believe it. It is because we need something to hang on to. And if it makes you feel good, when you're down, think about your worst moments in the world when you're completely down. Just think about it. I forgot to say hi to everybody. Hello, everyone. Hi. I'm sorry. I'm really shocked and appalled at the fact that was the answer to this person that you just don't agree with. Because I looked at a lot of his stuff prior to his passing and after his passing, and I didn't see anything that said violence was his result. He talked about guns and his belief in that. And maybe not gun control, but your right to brandish a gun. But I didn't hear anything about your right to brandish it, to use it on people that you don't agree. Speaking of Charlie Kirk, for those of you that are just coming in. I just think it's not fair. It's not even not fair, it's just not right. We can't, it's almost the most lost people in society that always do something physical. It's like their words don't get enough attention. And so you take an action to sort of compensate for the words that are not being able to be heard. We have this woe is me sort of mentality where we kind of feel sorry for each other. Not for each other, for ourselves. As if we're all victims all the time. But at the same time, we don't think for ourselves either. You have to say what everybody else is saying and thinking. Because if you go outside of that, you don't fit in. Like high school repeats itself. Like, do we ever, I don't think we ever leave high school. I think we switch positions. Right? I might have been the popular girl in high school, right? Not intentionally, but I just did a lot of stuff, right? And then all of a sudden I switched to sort of like the activist child. Like all of a sudden I wanted to make sure things were, everybody was moving forward in the world. And like I switched positions. I turned into like a hippie type person. And then, maybe the jock in school doesn't want to play sports anymore. So he becomes, a broadcaster, and the broadcaster becomes the court guy in the court. And all of a sudden we all start switching positions, but we still play the same game that we played when we were younger. It was just more visible back then. And a man loses his life, another one, because we can't forget civil rights. It was a big thing to take on, but we had a lot of speakers and people that spoke up back then, and it was already stuff that they weren't ready to hear. And the answer is always the same. Somebody gets killed. The answer, Abe Lincoln signed the Declaration of Independence. He signed a lot of things as president, right, that we still have today, right? But it was monumental at the time. It was something that was extraordinary at the time. Shot. Right? JFK. He's breaking ground and saying things that people aren't ready to hear. Shot. I mean, it's like, what is wrong with us that we just can't take being mirrored back to ourselves? But what is wrong with us that this is the answer every single time here? Shot. Somebody's always shot up, taken out, blown up. Something happens to this person that is, and then later, we do this every time. Later, maybe even a decade later, we suddenly see the value in what this person was saying. We martyr them. Because we didn't want to hear it at the time. We weren't ready. It's our lack of maturity and our lack of wisdom, and nobody paying attention to that there is a right and a wrong. There is. I'm sorry. There's a right and a wrong. And you have to look at the outcomes. For those of you that are not religious people, fine. We'll take it at another route. If you want to call it karma, fine. Take it at another route. But the point is to take it and to learn. Learn. You don't like you don't like everything everybody says. You're not even in the same place. He's going to people, he meaning Charlie Kirk, was going to 20-year-olds. He's in his 30s. He's going to have a different perspective. It's almost automatic he's going to have a different perspective, especially nowadays, because older generations look at Gen Z like, what the hell is Gen Z doing? I'm scared. Like, where are we going with this situation? Like, they don't like anything. They don't stick to anything. They have no dedication. And this is the view, with no dedication or anything. And we, as Gen Z, is looking like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? Like, really? Like, you're giving me advice right now? Like I really need to hear what you're saying right now? Like, don't worry about my situation, okay? I don't care if this relationship, it might go somewhere. You don't know the end result. And that person's like 70. You're like, yes, they do. Person's 70. What are you talking about? Of course they know the end result. They know that one and 18 other ones. Somebody's in their 30s like, well, what are you talking about? I'm 22. I know. You're only 31. Like, you're not even that much older than me. Like, what? How could you possibly understand anything? And they're looking at you like, poor child. They're looking at Gen Z like, they're looking at us like, what are you talking about? you dear child, you. And that pisses you off because then you feel like you're being discarded, right? Like you don't have an opinion of some sort. But it isn't that. It's just that Z is the first generation that just really didn't listen to the older people. They just didn't see the value in it. They were just like, what are you talking about? Like, what's wrong with hooking up? Like, are you serious right now? Like, I'm single. They're single. We hook up. We get a situation. And then what? What do you mean? What do you mean? And then what? I'm going to tell you, and then what? You end up broken. And then what? What, you try to get into a relationship and they're broken and you're broken, and then what? Then you try to put some kids in the situation because somebody gets pregnant, and then what? And then you start telling them outcomes and they're looking at you like, that's not going to happen. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's not going to happen. What do you mean? Like, you're totally off base. You have no clue as to what you're talking about. And they're looking at you like, no, you don't have a clue as to what you're talking about. I've seen outcomes and there's only one for this one. Or they say, I've done this and it's only one for this one. I'm not you. I'm different. I'm not going to have the same outcome. Be like, you don't know what you're talking about. So it was the first Gen Z. We are the first generation that came out and was like, yeah, I don't give a F about what you're talking about, old people. I don't care if you're just a couple years older than me. You don't know what you're talking about. So here comes this 31-year-old, Charlie Kirk, and he's all preaching biblical stuff, and you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I'm going to have to cuss because I just wanted to make it personal. Please don't cut me off. And he's preaching, gun, and you're like, what are you talking about? And he's talking about abortion, and this really blew everybody up. They were like, don't come in here with these antiquated, you're not even a woman. Okay, you don't know what it's like to carry a child, and how dare you come in there and tell us how to take care of our bodies? What do you mean? And he goes to these 20-something-year-olds, 21, 18, some of them 18, some of them 19, some of them 20, some of them 22, whatever college age is, and he's talking to them from the perspective of a 31-year-old who has already been through the path that they're just now going on, right? And so he comes in there with some views that are different from theirs, because Gen Z really gave into the liberal agenda. And it's not to say there was anything wrong with that, but this is where you are, just mentally. It's fine, whatever you believe, but if you're willing to listen to somebody else's point of view and consider. Z was the first generation that didn't even consider it. You're just like, what the F are you talking about? I am not interested. But you go to the debate because now you want to talk him down, right? You're like, what the? Okay, we're in here. Oh, I'm about to get him down. You mentioned, and you go all in. He's a little older, and he can kind of see where you're going with your point. He can pick it up pretty quickly. He's older than you, so he's like, at least by a decade for some of you, maybe a decade and 2 years for others, maybe around 7 to 6 years but he's been around a little longer. So he's going in because he knows where your point is going automatically because he's older. He knows where your point is. He's going in on your point, and he gives you something that you just don't want to hear. It's like that Bible person that always comes in and says, well, Jesus said, to each his own, or whatever. I'm making up stuff, but somebody goes in there with the Bible first, and you're like, what are you talking? And you're not religious. This is another question of outcomes, right? And a religious person who is in a completely different space talking to a non-religious person, or even the opposite, an atheist, and they're looking at you like, what the F are you talking about? There is no God. Look at people die every day. What do you mean? He doesn't exist, obviously, because he would have saved your life, right? You're sitting there with 2 kids and no father. What are you talking about? You don't know what you're talking about. I'm not listening to you. Obviously, the Bible does not do what you think it does. But you keep going on and blindly following the Bible. And the person looks at you and says, no, this was before I started these children, who I love still, by the way. But I'm trying to tell you, I wish somebody had told me beforehand what I did. They're not really preaching the Bible to you. They're using that as the example, but what they're preaching to you is outcome. The Bible is full of outcomes. Parable-wise, then sometimes it was a poem, sometimes it was a parable. Sometimes, what was Jesus really? Jesus is saying, here's the outcome of your action that you have to take accountability for. So on one hand, if you attack people verbally, it's almost more painful, right? Just like I'm talking to people now, and some people are like, what? Why is she going in? Like, I don't understand why she's mad. Like, she's usually pretty cool. We talk pretty, and she talks to the audience, and now she's just going in for some weird reason. What's that? So what you say and how you say it makes a difference. And although he wasn't violent, he did attack in a violent. His words were violent to some people. To people that can't handle what he was saying because they didn't agree with it. And how come it happens in history every time? Why is it that we can't, as Americans, accept when someone doesn't agree with what we're thinking? That if it jars you and makes you feel bad, all of a sudden you're angry. And you can't just be mad, you have to act on being mad. It's the same outcome every time. We get somebody that's outspoken. It's always going to be that person that's going against whatever we're talking about. Because that's why we're giving them attention in the first place. Like, what are you talking about? And there's always going to be those people like, you know what, there's a point to what I kind of think about, yeah, if I think about it, that's probably true. Maybe those. And there's always going to be those people that are like, this guy is a complete a-hole. I cannot stand him. He's the biggest jerk in the world. He's talking about abortion, and he's making people feel like they're just running around, sleeping around. And then if I'm single, how come I can't do that? And you go all in. What's wrong with having an abortion? At least the choice should be mine. I am a woman. It's my body. What does he mean? It's a child. It's not. It's an embryo. And you just start going on. But you have a right to do, right? You have a right to disagree. There's nothing wrong with that. You can live whatever life you feel like living. But to offer something else to a group of people that don't understand that, you have to be wise enough to consider it. That's what a debate is. And that's really all he was doing. He was just debating. A debate is giving each point of view and considering each point of view and trying to get the other person to understand and consider what you're saying. They do not have to take it on as a lifestyle, but to just consider it, to be respectful of each point. And when Gen Z decides to be disrespectful, they go all in on disrespect because they never really had a lot of self-respect in the first place. I'm sorry. That's what we do as Gen Z. Okay, that's what this generation is doing. When we were Xers have a reputation of being hyper responsible. Why? Because we were super independent. In order to get there, you had to listen to your parents at least a little bit. Just a little bit. When we were boomers, we had no choice. You have to listen. You were gonna listen. Or the neighborhood was gonna make sure you listened to your parents. You did it because they made you. The whole neighborhood made you. You didn't get to disrespect your parents because if somebody overheard that, they were gonna jump in there and be like, you need to be listening to your mother or your dad or your parents are correct. Your teacher. Your friend, whomever. So boomers, we had no choice. Xers had no choice because they had to be listening somewhat in order for us to be that responsible. And, millennials kind of came in between. They were more business oriented. They had business parents. So they were going in on, trying to find different ways to be productive without having to do extra work to do it. We didn't want to do all that extra. And then all of a sudden Z came, and here's all these past generations, and they decided all of those generations know nothing. Only Z. It's all about we are the new group of people that just the only generation that never had to listen at all to any of the other generations coming before us. We could listen to each other, and we all agreed with each other, and we give into this peer pressure that's there, and we're going to listen to, rap songs and other people, but we're just not going to listen to the generations before us. They don't know what they're talking about. Questions, comments? What are we doing here? So the port's in shock. They're just like, what, where did I come in at? We're talking about the backdrop of Charlie Kirk, using this example of how the reactions to him ended up being what they were. Ended up resulting in this man's death. And another reason, I saw the whole video. All the way past the shot. Now, it wasn't cut for whatever reason. Somebody sent me the real thing. And I got to see this man get ready to answer a question. It was about gun violence, ironically. Maybe not ironically, we don't know. And he gets shot, and he almost goes paraplegic in a weird sort of way. He's got shot in the neck. And then he sort of drops, and you realize at that moment, people started cheering. And maybe this is the visceral reaction that you hear people having, that maybe they saw the whole video and not just part of it, not that they didn't cut at the cut. I saw the whole thing, and I saw this man go almost paraplegic looking, His hands, everything went limp. And you look at first like, what the heck just happened? And then he falls out the chair and drops the mic. And you hear the crowd go wild. Not the whole crowd, but the majority of the people that did not agree with this man start cheering, like right away. Like, yeah, that's what you get, kind of thing. And you can't help but just feel shock. I was complete. Maybe that's where it's coming from, me seeing the entire thing. Yes, I saw the whole thing. I didn't see a clip, nothing. I saw the whole video, all the way past the shot until this camera phone dropped. So I saw the whole thing. And I literally saw, as they panned in this video that I got, to the audience, and the bunch of young people started cheering, or not bunch of crowd started cheering immediately once he got hit. And I don't know if they thought that they knew he was shot. They had to have known at that point, because it's almost like time stood still, even though the video's in real time. You know, it just looked like it stood still, because you were sitting there looking like, did he just, what the? And then you realize, oh my God. And he drops. Right in the middle of gun control sentence. And to see it, I mean, we were already upset with Gen Z just for all the things that they were doing that we just thought was disrespectful. Meaning all the other generations, right? And as Gen Zers, we're like, you know, we really don't care. We just don't give a F. And this becomes a popular thing because it almost is stating on the surface that you just don't care what people think. And that sounds cool all the time, right? That you're not giving in to the norms of the day, right? So you don't care what people think. You know, it's kind of like, yay, I'm a self-sufficient person. I don't give a F. I don't give a F about nothing. I don't give a F about what people think. And it's not, in your actions, that's not what you're showing. You show you care too much about what people think, and you're sort of not thinking independently. You're going along with the crowd without looking like you're going along with the crowd. Exaggerated rebellion is also conformity. It's just packaged different. You hear me say that I do say that all the time. I absolutely say that all the time. I know everybody's like, don't you say that all the time? I say it all the time, and now it applies. It applies to Gen Z. What do you mean I didn't cover them? I talk about millennials. Millennials sort of came at the end. Like a younger millennial may veer more towards being a Gen Z. And a Gen Zer, it's just a very disrespectful generation. They just don't respect at all experience. They don't respect education. Half of them don't want to go to college. I think that there's 45% of them, somebody fact check me, but I did read this, don't want to go to college anymore. They don't want to go. Whereas 65% of them keep a job for only a year. I mean, no disrespect. No, I mean, half of them, I think, somebody's fact check me on these stats, because this is stats that I'm trying to remember on top of my head. There's a percentage of them that just don't want to ever get married. I think it's 45 to 50% of them don't want to get married, but they want kids. It's the most ridiculous concept I've ever heard of. This is why we have a whole generation up-and-comers of single mothers. This doesn't include in vitro, where you don't need a man at all. But you don't think about, how is that going to make the child grow up? How do you have a whole generation of kids with no fathers, and a whole generation of kids that never had a dad because he was a frozen sperm donor? So let's not forget that, because the majority of those people are not African American sperm donor people. They're what we call feminist. Check my stats. Now that my stats are real, I don't know the number is correct. But there are statistics out there for that. So if someone wants to check, because I'm just talking now without having the stat in front of me. But I did get these from the Bureau of Statistics. Check them out for me. Make sure they're accurate, and if they're wrong, just let me know, and I'll come back and correct it. But it's some around those percentages. I'm pretty close, but I'm not exact, so I'm close. We have to start looking at this because it is Gen Z. We are very disrespectful because we don't respect. I hate our elders. Now you're like, if a 31-year-old and I'm 20, that is not an elder. It is. Because if you're 20 and they're 31, that's 11 years you have not lived that they've seen 11 years worth. So that is an elder. Like some of you are like, no, is that an elder? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Because anybody that's past you in a decade and plus a year is an elder to you. Point blank, period. To take Tony Gaskin's sentence. Yes, no, that is an elder. Listen, elder just means older, right? A decade and a year is way older. See, you guys already argue with me already. You don't even know, like, that's what I'm saying. You won't even consider that as a reality. It's not even considered. Maybe a point. Okay, that's a consideration. I maybe have a point. I'll take the maybe. I'll, I'll take the maybes. Yeah, but we don't acknowledge, so we're gonna keep going. Yeah, so when I thought about Charlie Kirk and I saw the whole video and I saw them cheer like almost immediately as soon as he got shot. I don't even think they really knew what happened, but they started cheering. Like the irony of it all was more exciting for them than it was concerning. Amongst those that are not his supporters, yes, among those that are not his supporters. Because people, that's why people get on Gen Z all the time. That's just disrespectful on a whole nother level of disrespect. Somebody just lost their life instantly. Instead of looking around for who shot it or making sure everybody's okay, you cheer because you don't agree with what he's saying. It was almost a ridiculous concept. As if they don't know. You're right. Yeah, that's somebody saying as if they don't know. Yeah, no, they knew. They were well aware by the time he dropped. So you might have been shocked initially. Some people start cheering immediately. Then he drops and you know something's wrong and everyone continued to cheer. The whole video, I saw the whole thing, meaning past the shot. Like he got shot, I was watching fall. And then somebody pans to the crowd because they couldn't believe that the crowd was cheering. And I guess they looked over and the camera goes towards the crowd. Maybe even to turn away from Charlie and what was happening with that situation. And they noticed that the crowd was cheering. And they couldn't believe it. And video kind of went on, but down. Like where you couldn't see the rest of it. This person was probably devastated. I'm sure. It's quite an event. But, in a sense, an immunity to this type of violence is also part of the problem as well. We've seen so many videos of people getting shot. So many scenarios of this type of behavior happening to this type of person that we labeled and judged. It's an immunity there. There's an immunity to Gen Z as well that we have that maybe we can't say it's video games necessarily, but it is social media. Social media shows you everything. It's disconnecting. And I don't think people realize that. Older people, if you go to a boomer, they'll be like, oh my God, this is such a disconnect. And you go, calm down, old man. But if you hear it from your Zers, it's something you don't want to hear. What do you mean Oh, stop it. You blame everything on social media. Social media gives us an outlet. We get a chance to talk to each other. We can talk to people in different countries. And you start throwing out the positives of social media without even paying 1 ounce of attention to the negatives of social media. And how do you know it's negative? You don't. That is why you have elders. Elders tell you these things. You don't know. You have no clue. You're bouncing around every other second on making sure you don't put your phone down. And we laugh and we crack jokes and we say, they don't ever put their phone down. And you're like, duh, what am I going to, I can't connect. How am I going to figure out what's going on? But put my phone down. You're just old. I don't even want to hear you anymore. That's how you guys are like walking around. And so when something like this happens, you see the differences in the generations because you saw the different reactions. It's actually a joke on TikTok. Everybody goes through these generations: boomer generation, X generation, millennials, and then Z. And you'll start to see all these different reactions and you realize that that's funny, but also real. Because each of them are coming from a different point of view. Different generations are supposed to be teaching each other stuff. But stopped at Z because Z didn't want to learn anything. Suddenly Z, the most spoiled generation, believe it or not, because you had the most. Now everybody's going to be mad. This is why mine is for older people. You're going to get the most mad, but the truth of the matter is, you got the most. You didn't have phone booths and all this nonsense. You didn't have, to beat street lights, and you didn't have latch keys for the poor Gen Z people, and you didn't have, you had computers, but millennials kind of was coming in and, learning to build stuff, and the graphics was getting better and better, but you had good graphics, and you had, better phones. Look at your iPhones were crazy. You didn't have the flip phones that were going there, what's that BlackBerry thing, the BlackBerry, some other nonsense, the brick phone if you were back, before cell phones became popular. It's just like this brick. Sometimes you'll see them in a store and you just laugh because, like, seriously, this was a cell phone. It's not portable at all. It was like a brick phone. And then some people had phones in their cars. That was cool back then. But you don't have none of that. And then we didn't have it. Boomers had almost nothing. You pretty much walked everywhere if you didn't have a bike. You pretty much had to, you had etiquette classes because you had to have those, and you had, you had those completely different. So you start looking at Gen Z and you think about this situation. And even though we had brutal killings from people disagreeing with someone that spoke, it was the first time you ever had people cheer about it. I mean, people were like, oh my God, Martin Luther King just got shot. And it was like this devastating thing. I mean, I was obviously not there, but I can look back at the videos and see people being all devastated about it, and people talk about it in a devastating fashion. And when you had, I mean, you just had things of the day from different generations that didn't constitute that. I mean, you had just tragedies that were treated as if they were such, whether you agreed with the person or not. No one deserves to die violently. So the visceral reaction from Gen Z is what sparked everybody's upset. And you might have not have even been a Charlie Kirk fan, but you went back to hear his stuff to see what could you possibly be saying that led to this outcome, where somebody would cheer instantly. It wasn't like you thought about it and came back later. It's like right away the cheering began. And you go back and you hear it and you're like, agree with that, don't agree with that, maybe that, okay, what is he saying in here that would make me, nothing. Nothing at all. It's a very selfish reaction because you think about this man had kids. And the last, if that video is ever shown to them, they're going to see a bunch of people happy that their father is dead. Dead. Murdered, really. in front of an entire crowd of people that were happy to see it. Not the entire crowd, but the people that they're going to see. Those kids have to grow up knowing that. And it did not affect Gen Z even a little bit. They actually doubled down on the fact that they were. Questions, comments? He was a hateful person. So are a lot of people. But the person that shot him is a hateful person. Did you cheer when he got caught? 22-year-old Gen Zer? Did you cheer then? I mean, it's kind of crazy. Like how far gone are we in Gen Z? That we actually are right now going in and justifying this type of behavior. Like you guys justify, Gen Z, we justify everything. We justify hooking up without any love. We justify having babies out of wedlock. We justify, we justify anything. We justify cheering at a man's death because he said something we didn't like. How do you justify that? Nobody said you agreed with them. You don't have to. Many people didn't agree with Martin Luther King's version of I Have a Dream. They're like, what the heck is he talking about? I'm not trying to do that. What I'm trying to do is better myself. I don't need to be around them. But you could all come together and realize that a man's life is taken that was not violent. You know, you can identify with somebody not needing their life taken because they don't agree with what you're saying. Not preaching violence. The Klan was violent as heck. What do you mean? Don't come in here with that. I will block you. The Klan, violence begat violence. They were very violent. Not only were they violent, but they were burning people and flogging. What are you talking about? Don't even, as a matter of fact, I am going to block you. Don't come in here again. That's just ridiculous. I don't want to hear that. You can't even compare the two. Charlie Kirk was not a Klansman. Okay, he was not violent at all. He just had a difference of opinion. Don't come in here disrespecting him like that. Am I defending his opinions? He defended his own opinions. I don't need to do that. Did I agree with all of them? No. But does that mean I agree? I wholeheartedly think there's a right and a wrong when you're cheering. And I told you once again, for those of you just coming in, how you guys doing? I just saw the entire video. Past the shot, the drop, the pan to the crowd, and the crowd cheering like a man didn't just lose his life right now. So I went all the way through. And I watched the video a couple of times because I was shocked at first. I was like, what just happened? Did I miss something? Did they catch him and I didn't see it? What are we cheering about here? And I almost didn't want to believe that they were cheering because this man had got it. So I looked at the video a couple of times. And if I was in that crowd, it would have been more devastating because it's in person, right? So I'm thinking to myself, okay, let me look at this video. Okay, I was bracing myself because I knew it was going to be jarring. I said, I'm going to look at this video. Somebody sent me the video, but they sent me the whole thing. And up until that point, I had only saw clips, pieces. But this time I saw the entire video. And I'm watching this and I'm thinking, if I'm actually there, because it's called empathy, so you put yourself in that situation. And I'm looking at this man and I noticed he just went limp. He's got shot in the neck. He falls. So now I know he's hurt. The movement in my mind was not to cheer. I was really just shocked. Like, what just happened here? I know what he's going to do because I know him, which is why I came to the debate in the first place. I already know who he is, right? I'm there. I know who he is, or I wouldn't be there. So it's utterly ridiculous when people try to act like they weren't expecting the stuff that he was going to say. If you looked at one video, in the scenario that he was in when he was talking, he didn't change much. So what am I cheering at? I'm cheering that this man that I don't agree with, that I'm at his conference, just got killed. There was no other way to look at that. So how do you look at that? And some of you are still coming in here trying to justify why they were cheering. I have not heard anything convincing yet that made any sense. I get for those of you that didn't see the video, some of you didn't see all of it, but if you sat there or you were there and those people were there, you cannot justify cheering that this man just got shot in front of you. I don't have to agree with you to know that you should not die violently because I don't agree with you. Killer, Gen Z, 22. So that's how I end up saying, listen, there's a reason why, for those of you that are religious, it's put in the Bible. For those of you that are not religious, it's just common sense that somebody that has lived longer than you, because what Jesus really preached was outcomes. So don't look at the Bible if you don't want to look at the Bible. Look at just the reality of the situation. Here's the best example ever, and it'll speak to Gen Z, because Gen Z, we are a mess. If I am a drug dealer, quick, fast, easy money right there in my neighborhood, I don't even have to go anywhere. Generation after generation after generation after generation, what the heck happens to a drug dealer? What happens? Even fictitiously, what happens? Favorite movie, Scarface. What happens to him at the end? Any drug dealer, I know a lot about that life. Drug dealing has the same outcomes. Death, jail, try to get out. And sometimes you still get out and you still get killed. Death, jail, try to get out. I don't care if it's the boomer generation, if it's Gen X, if it's millennial Z. The outcome is the same. Everything is new when you're young. So you're telling me that a 31-year-old gets shot in front of you, you guys cheer and you're thinking that's okay. Please explain. Because there was no other group of people that were not devastated by that. Martin Luther King got shot and you didn't hear people go, yay! Death to the civil rights guy that's non-violent. I'm glad you went violent. That didn't happen. It made a lot of change because people thought about it and was like, oh my God. Out of all the people, I mean, I'm not saying Malcolm X should have died violently either, but you start hearing talk like that. But at least it made more sense. I mean, the man preached non-violent. Like, how do you start hearing talk like that? You did not hear cheering. Go back and look at the videos. They have videos of those too. Only generation that did it is the most disrespectful generation. It is ours. It is Gen Z. Most disrespectful generation. Not us as millennials. Not us as Gen Xers. Definitely not us as boomers. Z. Instantly starts cheering when that guy got killed. That's how they referred to him. They didn't refer to him as Charlie Kirk. That guy got killed. I'm reading it. You guys said when that guy got killed, you didn't even see him as a person at that point. You're telling us what you're thinking by your choice in words. That guy got killed. His name was Charlie Kirk. He got killed in front of you, and you cheered. I mean, come on, explanations here. So that's why you see a lot of people being angry, even people that weren't supporters of his, because they were like, I don't agree with none of what you're talking about. But I can respect the fact that you're trying, and you know, that's fine. But there's no respect at all. Everything that's done in Gen Z is a disrespectful version of it. Even the debates were disrespectful. You're wrong, period. There is no other way. Oh, so you're a decade and a year older than me. I don't care. I still know more than you. I'm not even going to consider what you're saying because I'm a Gen Zer and I know more than you. The devastation of the hookup culture. Stop talking to me about that. You don't know what it's like. It's different. We're not like you guys running around trying to get married all the time, running around trying to have, families and all that stuff. We're done with that. We know more than you. I'm 22. I know more than you. I don't care if you're 35. I don't care if you're 40. I don't care about those old school values that you try ripping off on us. We don't want to hear it. And you don't see your own downfall. Look at you. We're scared. Look at where you are in life right now. You don't want to work because you don't want to work anywhere more than a year. You don't have foundation. You don't believe in marriage and relationships, so we don't have families. You're very disrespectful to your elders, so you're not going to learn anything because you're going to have to learn everything the hard way because you don't want to use examples. So you don't believe in religion, so that's not a foundation. The Bible is just some mess. It's a bunch of parables with the guy that was homeless running around telling a bunch of stories. Like, I'm not following it. What else we got? Yes, we should have abortions. Yes, we can do anything, and we don't have to listen to you as a result of it. We can actually make our own decisions, even though we're following each other and making decisions that are with the group. We don't need to listen to anybody outside of our group. And if we look at your outcomes, they're not very good. First generation to not work or even want to work for long periods of time. First generation that does not, that can cheer when someone gets killed because they don't agree with what he's saying. First generation to be extremely disrespectful to their elders. They don't even feel like they need to. First generation that idolizes this is no disrespect to strippers, okay? But we almost idolize them. They're on a pedestal nowadays. And there's nothing wrong with doing that if that's what you do for a living. But you see how I'm open to that thought process, even though I myself am not a stripper? I don't have to live that lifestyle to understand that maybe you have a reason for what you're doing, and I don't have to. But what if I went all on a tirade about how inappropriate strippers are, how they're the reason why it's you see the difference in what I'm saying? The downfall of our society and our children today. We're running around looking at people take their clothes off for a living that don't have any morals or standards. And you see how different that. You ever hear me talking like that? No, because I still recognize that that's a human being, and they made a choice, and it might not agree with mine, and I may not have lived that, but I can certainly listen to you and understand how you got there. If a stripper came to me, and I've talked to them, and porn stars, even though I don't live that lifestyle, with an open mind and tried to consider what they were saying. Sometimes it's a cautionary tale. You should be glad you didn't take this route. This is what ended up happening. And sometimes they're still in that life, and they're like, I'm doing what I have to do right now, and I don't want you to look down on me, but I want to tell you what I'm going through. That's an open discussion. I didn't bust into a strip club and start shooting up strippers because they're messing up women. I mean, it's how ridiculous the concept even sounds. That would be even acceptable. If I went in and shot up a bunch of strippers, everybody would be like, what the hell is your problem? I mean, I don't agree with it. I'm not a stripper. Yeah, maybe I don't want my daughter to end up like that. But was shooting them the answer? This is this is what happens when you don't consider a point of view that's not yours. You don't even consider it. You just get subjective, and your way is the only way, and therefore that person must pay for preaching against you. It is the most selfish thinking in the world. But you can't learn that and have wisdom about that and apply wisdom to that if you're not even considering that there's a thought outside of your own. Z does not do that. We do not do that as Gen Zers. We do not. We don't consider anything but what we're doing and what we're thinking, and that's it. And if you don't agree with that, God, good riddance that you got shot to death. You should have gotten shot. Should have got killed. Running around telling people they can't have abortions, and I've had 3. How dare you judge me? But you're really judging them. You judged the person. You literally judged him and then got mad for him doing the same thing. It was utterly ridiculous. You heard some of these debates, they're ridiculous. You're judging him, and then you're like, I don't know why you're judging people that do this, because you judge people that don't do it. That's why it says you should not judge, and what that basically means is you got to listen, you got to consider. It's not going to be something that maybe you do or agree with, but get it and understand that the person is a human being and that they have a different point of view, and you may be able to learn something. Doesn't mean you're going to run out and do what they tell you to do, but it means that you're learning something and you're growing. This is why we're so separate now. Everybody has opinions. Nobody has wisdom. So you're running around giving a bunch of opinions without even considering whether or not it makes sense what you're thinking and feeling. Just because you have a thought doesn't mean you have to express it. You're running around what we call keeping it real here in Gen Z, which was started by the late millennials. Actually, you can go even back to some of the Xers. Keeping it real was misinterpreted. Keeping it real did not mean every thought that pops in my head is correct and every thought that pops in my head should be expressed. That's not keeping it real. Questions, thoughts, comments? I am on fire. Am I really on fire, or am I just like shocked? This is me speaking out of pure shock and just really not understanding how this could happen. Like, why? And I mean, not that I don't know people shoot people. No, I'm saying, how is it that you can be happy the man got killed? Not in retrospect, in real time. There was not an ounce of shock, nothing. I'm telling you, if you haven't seen the entire video, don't look at it, because it is going to change your point of view completely. I mean, I was like, what just happened? I literally probably said it out loud, what just happened? Because I think out loud sometimes, and I can't believe sometimes. And that was really where I was at. And so it prompted me to say, okay, well, I'm going to have an opinion on this, but I'm not going to have an opinion that somebody else gave me. I want to really look at the video. And I kind of was saying it, and then somebody sent it. I don't know, they must have had it. And somebody said, here you go. Now give an opinion, because we want to know what you're thinking. And I was like, well, you're not going to know what I'm thinking just half-heartedly. I want to really have it like a legit opinion on what happened. And somebody said, okay, cool. And they sent me they must have been there. I'm thinking they probably were there. And they sent the whole thing. That's what changed my mind. That's why you hear me like really doing commentary today versus, doing Q&A type format. I really went into a commentary format because I couldn't believe how mean this generation is. I mean, it's mean. And it's because it's subjective. If you're subjective, you're probably going to be a meaner person than people that are not. Because there's going to be a bunch of people that say a bunch of stuff you're not ready to hear. Because you've only heard your own voice for so long. When someone comes in there with something else, and it's different from what you're thinking, it becomes a problem. We know the psychology behind that, right? We know how that works. And I'm scared. We have an entire generation of us as Gen Zers that are subjective thinking. Unless it's coming from a subjective person that agrees with what I say. I go looking for trouble in a case like that. I'll go to a conference of a person that I don't agree just so I can debate with them and make them look wrong. I mean, it was welcomed by him meaning Charlie Kirk, ultimately. But let's pretend, for example, that I'm making a decision. And I think, what's the wisest decision? If I want to go there and really debate, meaning I have to take on his point of view and sort of try to understand it. Try to get him to understand where I'm coming from. And sort of meeting of the minds, then I go. But if I flat out don't agree with you, I don't even like you, I can't stand you, I can't believe you're saying all the things that I'm doing is wrong, why would I show up? It's almost a senseless, you're there looking for trouble. You're not there to be subjective. I mean, you're not there to be objective. You're there looking for trouble, period. Otherwise, if you had any sense at all, you just simply wouldn't go. You wouldn't put yourself in that position, and you wouldn't put the speaker in that position. You wouldn't disrespect him in that way. You can still be respectful. Listen here, Gen Zers. You can still be respectful and not agree. You can agree to disagree and be respectful to them thinking what they think and you feeling what you feel. That's what a debate ends up being. But that wasn't a debate. You didn't go there for that. You went there to make them look bad because they're wrong. And that's when you know you're being subjective. And anything subjective is always selfish. Period. Why? How do I know it's a right or wrong? Because of the outcome. So I say all this at the end. Having gone on for like, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes, being like shocked to death. Going on and on. Just saying that your words matter. They matter. It matters how I say something. If I'm attacking you guys are like, what the heck is going on? Right? If I just say it and I'm still objective, like I normally are, then you just kind of agree and we disagree and we talk about it and we have a little thing about it. If I am completely selfish, then not only do you have to agree with me, but I'm going to get heartless mad if you don't. And anger, uncontrolled, leads to an action. An angry action. And that's what happened. This 22-year-old has all these feelings and emotions. We don't know what they are because we're not inside his head. You're not inside anybody's head. You don't know what Charlie's really thinking. Nobody knows what anybody's really thinking unless they say it. And even if they say it, it might be filtered. So we don't know what he was thinking, but we know whatever it was in his own head. He's thinking that. So therefore, he got angry and had an angry reaction. Don't believe me? Follow the cycle of the people that have shot somebody. It's an outcome. I don't have to be there to know that the outcome. The reason why this made such an impact is because the outcome of the audience was different than it was from any other audience that was witnessing a person being killed in front of them. So I end this commentary with this. Think about it. Consider it. Maybe watch it again or listen to it again if time allows, because this is pretty long. But don't go away mad. Because all that's going to show is that you're limited in your thinking. Be angry for a minute, but then open yourself up to consider something different than what you're feeling and thinking. So people say, we agree with you. No, you don't have to agree. I'm talking to the people that don't. Because you guys come in here too with some nonsense. Right, you come in here saying some stuff, and then I have to block some people, and then you come in here. And I only blocked that one person only because they were comparing it to something that shouldn't even be compared. Don't start talking about the clans, because he wasn't like that. If you looked at his videos, I don't want his memory to be associated with them. And I'm not saying that I have to agree with you, because I don't. But I don't want this to turn into that, to something that's not. Remember him for what he actually was and who he was. And if you watch his videos, there was never any preaching about violence other than when they talked about guns. And it was mostly statistically based. And I don't want somebody comparing the deaths of the other people to what I'm talking about, because I'm talking about the reactions to the death. And that makes a difference. And I'm talking about, as I always do, it is one thing to make a decision. It's another thing to live a life. But it's a whole nother level when you're seeking to be wise in that. Those are the people that make an impact. Not the people that are just running around saying and doing anything. Subjectively thinking. All right. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe with the claps. Thanks, guys. Make sure you guys just like me because you follow me wherever I go. So not follow me, but you guys come in and watch my channel and stuff and send me stuff. Thank you for whoever sent me that video. I appreciate it. My condolences to his family and to just his kids. Who wants to have that as an experience. And we learned that, if nothing else, from the Kennedy kids. John talked about it. His name was John. John Kennedy Jr. talks about his father and watched videos of his father, make comments on them. And it was almost as if he understood who he thought he would, but would have rather known for himself, and seen him as he grew up, But anyways, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe.